Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today I am talking about Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach Ruin. Now, this is basically off script. I just beat the game and I wanted to give my impressions on the DLC campaign. Now, it is free for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC users. Xbox, I believe, are going to get it down the line. But this is a two-parter. I'm going to contain some slight spoilers in here, but it takes place after the events of the main game, so I kind of need to discuss that a little in order to get a good idea of how to convey this review. So what is the narrative here? You take control of Casey. Casey heads into the Pizzaplex after the events of the first game to find that it's been completely abandoned and going through renovations. This is because the core ending of the original, despite having multiple endings, is that Gregory gets to the bottom of the Pizzaplex, sets the entire place on fire, and now you're in the aftermath. Casey gets an SOS from Gregory saying he's trapped and you have to go and find him. Now, exploring the Pizzaplex, it's basically a linear game. It's not open-ended like in the original, so you'll go from point A to point B in hopes of trying to discover where Gregory is and rescue him. The narrative is predictable. You'll know what's going to happen by the end very well, because if you know anything about Five Nights at Freddy's, you'll instantly know what's going to happen towards the end. If you don't, maybe you might have a bit of more of a surprise, but the way that it's done correctly is that it picks a really good moment to end the DLC, so the next one can have a really good starting point. The cliffhanger is fantastic, and I am hyped to see how all of this is going to end. It's about 2 to 3 hours depending on your skill level, but I would say I was satisfied with the narrative. It was bare bones, but effective in what it delivered. Casey is kind of an empty protagonist. She doesn't have much of a personality. Same thing with Gregory. They're more like conduits for the player. But I would say her biggest draw is the fact that she conveys how much this place means to her. Like in the main game, you didn't really get an idea of why Gregory even came here, why this place would be important to him. But with Casey, you definitely get that idea by one of the more profound moments within the game. You see that this place did mean something to her, and you get an idea of why she feels kind of safe here in a way. But, the horrors start to creep up. So that's the narrative. Alright, let's talk gameplay. So the gameplay of this game is still the poorest part. Now, the game is stable. I only encountered one hard crash, and I was worried that it was just as broken as the core game when it launched. But fortunately, it's not. It's a lot more stable, only one hard crash. So it plays like a linear experience. The open-ended parts of the game are completely removed or toned down to the point that it's just like small open areas within the Pizzaplex. So you go from point A to point B. You get your trusty flashlight first, and you get a brand new item called the VR helmet. It's basically Vanny's helmet from the core game, and it shows how she was able to go throughout the Pizzaplex with such breakneck speeds. Basically, with this helmet, you can go into type of a digital space and phase through objects. But if you wear it for too long, a type of digitized rabbit starts to chase you around. It doesn't kill you instantly, it just slowly takes you over, I guess. But I was never caught by the thing, so you have to try really hard to get captured by this thing. It seems intimidating. It's definitely scary. The designers did an outstanding job in its animation and the way it looks. I mean, the game generally looks like an exceptional game. The presentation was always top notch with this title, and it still shows here with the burnt down Pizzaplex, the different animatronics that have been completely destroyed and warned. So they did an exceptional job with that, but once you find out that it runs like half a mile a minute or moves at such a small pace, because they try to complement it with the puzzle system, so they had to make it much slower so it's not that threatening once you realize that it moves so slowly. The next thing that you'll do constantly throughout the game, which is a gameplay loop, is the security nodes. So you'll access the security nodes and you'll need to remove objects of importance that connect the security nodes. This would have been an excellent opportunity to have actual profound objects that are significant to the franchise, but they're just random objects that you hold down the prompt, destroy them, and then you go and just play the same connect the dots video puzzle game over and over again. In fact, it's clear this process was rushed because they repeat the same puzzles for multiple objective points. But you'll do this gameplay loop over and over again. By the end of the game, I was just so annoyed by it. They needed to change up the variation by some degree. Like, it was just so bad and how they kept repeating the same process. Now, you'll still be chased by animatronics, but they've streamlined it in the sense that they're not, again, open-ended. What you'll instead do is lure them from location to location, or they'll be in scripted events. For example, they implement a security system with the cameras by allowing you to lure the animatronics away by using voice commands. It's a very bare bones system, but honestly, it's so much better than the original, because in the original, a security bot would capture you, then they would alert the animatronic, which would teleport to your location, and then you would have to run away before you got one-shotted. This game still has one-shots, and it's very annoying, but it's there. The biggest problem with these one-shots is the fact that there are some of these animatronics that are just comical. Look, I get that these animatronics are, adult size. That makes sense. They would take a kid up and basically be able to manhandle them. But when it comes to these, you'll eventually encounter these small music men who are basically these wind-up toys, and they barely come up to your ankle. And I don't understand how Casey can't just smash these things. Like, babies smash things that are 3 times their size with ease, but I would say an elementary school kid, she can smash this thing easily, but of course they're everywhere. They're one-shot kills, and some of them will literally follow you around the area. Thank God they only put this for one area of the game, but dear God, it was so dreadfully annoying. It's basically the bed of chaos of Dark Souls. If you come to this area, you're just like, I want it to end. I want to get out of this situation as quickly as possible. So yeah, most of the gameplay hasn't changed. It's more or less the same. There are collectibles, but they've changed that as well. They're just simply for cosmetic purposes. They have 2 sets of collectibles. The first are in the AR environment. There are these giant square packages, and they just give you various dolls from the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. They're completely meaningless, unlike the original game where you got power-ups for each collectible you got. The next one are in the real world, and these actually have some tangible benefit for lore reasons. You get them, and they show pictures that Gregory has drawn throughout his adventure here. So I'm sure MatPat or someone will be able to use that to correctly forge them together. But the biggest problem with this is that if you are trying to get the collectibles, is that you have to switch between the AR environment and the real world environment. And since you have to take off the mask and put it back on and take it off and put it back on, you can see where the tedium comes from trying to get all the collectibles. And there are no trophies, so this is completely for happenstance if you just want to get 100%. And as far as I can tell, I did get all the collectibles, at least as far as I can tell, and nothing happened. Nothing. I don't know what's the point even. At least in the original, you had actual benefits to get into stuff, speed, better flashlight, stuff like that. Here it's just why even put this without any type of trophy system? It makes 0 sense. Now, there is no way to select chapters. This is more of a linear experience, so you'll just have to play through the adventure again if you want to. And yeah, that's overall of the gameplay. There's really nothing else that really stands out about this DLC. It is free, but for you to get through this completely determines on whether you liked Five Nights at Freddy's. If you have no interest in it, this is not going to change your mind. If you were burnt by Security Breach and have no interest in continuing that, you're probably better off watching it on some Let's Play like Markiplier. I'm sure you're probably going to watch it on that, or watch, like I said, one of those lore videos about what happened. But overall, this is completely based on whether you enjoyed the first game. Despite its major issues, I had fun with the first game. But with this one, it's completely determined on your love for Five Nights at Freddy's. Like I said, the narrative does close off on a high note that leaves open for a lot of possibilities. But for now, I would say if you want to dedicate 2 to 3 hours to this, it's completely determined on whether you enjoy this franchise or not. So that's my review of Ruin. I can't wait to see what happens with part 2. If you like the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. Best way to support me is to join. Hit the join button for support. There's the super thanks button for a one-time donation. And of course, liking, sharing, all that stuff plays a huge role. If you watched to the end, thank you so much. And yeah, that's it. Goodbye. Have a good one.